Welcome to the stream. I'm Nate with Fantasy in Roleplay, and here we are to play Session 1 of our Strider Mode campaign that was just released. I will be playing Rudigar Took. So, here we go. I will try to kind of do a little bit of roleplay, but otherwise it's just going to be me rolling on tables and experiencing what is out and about in this in the Shire. My family is an honourable family of potters and masons from the Mailish East Farthing, but one day something utterly tookish awoke in my blood and overcame my respectability. It first happened after a long day in the afternoon sun, returning home from the Golden Perch after spending time with the lads. I saw some outlandish folk around a bright campfire. I was only 27 at the time, still a tween, and a queer curiosity overcame me. And so I crept closer, and there I spied a group of small folk like me, only they had long grey beards touching their toes, and they were playing a merry tune on a strange instruments. I hurried back home to the family hobbit hole, and there my grandmother, Mrs. Cotton, or Mrs. Maggot, told me that the strangers were called dwarves from the Blue Mountains, just like the folk that dragged mad cousin Baggins away. And from that point on, I shunned the well-trod paths of the Shire and volunteered with the messenger post service and the bounders whenever I could. Just to get a glimpse of strangers crossing the Shire. My father Isengard, died on my 13th year. Wolves out of the old forest raided the Crick Hollow after the old hedge was broken. We were on holiday in Crick Hollow. My mother remarried a Bruno Bulger, a wealthy carpenter in stock, and there they had 2 more children. Bruno was a nice hobbit gentleman, and he treated his hobbit children his adopted children kindly. But his 2 children always held a special sight in his eye. And so here we go. There we go, the map of the Shire. So I'm just going to kind of go into things. What you need to know, after his encounter with the dwarves, Rudigar started to volunteer quite a bit with the messenger post and the bounders, like I had said before. And on one such occasion, while beating the bounds, he ran into an old grey-hatted wizard, Gandalf the Grey, and the old wizard took a liking to him. And Rudigar hasn't seen a Gandalf since, and that was several months ago. But Rudigar is still kind of holding out hope that perhaps one day he'll see him again. The only advice the old man gave him was, if ever in the town of Bree, look up old Butterbur at the sign of the Prancing Pony. He'll give you a good place to lie your head for rest. He'll give you a good place to lie your head to rest, and he'll help with everything needed. And so I'm just going to roll. I'm not going to roll on a patron quest that is in the Strider modes. I'm just going to roll on the lore table to kind of see. Right now, I imagine Rudigar is in the Marish, is in stock at the Golden Perch down here. Just relaxing at the Golden Perch for a few pints after a long trek delivering some messages um, all up and down the um, road here, from all the way from Stock to Willowbarrows and back up again, or Willow Bottom rather. So that's kind of where I'm imagining Rudy is right now. So we are just going to roll right on the lore table to kind of see where things are, to see what his kind of current goal is. So I'm going to roll action, aspect, and focus. All right, so that's an 8. All right, so he's got a current restore simple rumor. So I think what that means, restore simple rumor. Rudigar is in Stock right now. He's at the Golden Perch. He's relaxing, enjoying his time after a long kind of just series of messages that he sent out over the roads along Stock and the Old Buckland. So what that means, restore simple rumor, I believe that means once he arrived at Stock, the sheriff of the East Farthing had called him into his office a little earlier in the day and gave him a letter that contained a list of commands and duties that he should complete within the coming days. And I think the time of year, it's 2965 of the Third Age, which would be 1338 in the Shire reckoning. So yeah, the sheriff of East Farthing gave him this like letter, this document that held a series of duties. And most of it was just kind of beating the bounds, going on patrol. But the main one that he had to do was there was some sort of issue that he had to resolve. And I'm going to actually take the Shire book. I kind of read a little bit about some stuff about it. So he's being called in on backup to deal with an issue way up in the West Farthing, and I believe this is taking place in Little Delving. Let me just flip over to this. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find this. Oh, no, it might be the North Farthing, actually, that this takes place in. Here we go. Yeah, so there's a bit of a up near Gamwich and Tyfield, the two small little villages up in the West Farthing. Rudy has been called in as support. There's there's been an incident. Apparently, there's a theft at at the rope factory, an old rope factory in Thighfield, uh, led by a Hobbit gentleman, Andy Roper. Has a little bit of a hubbub has gone over there. Apparently, some dwarves have stolen the stolen rope or taken up in the factory there, and he's kind of putting things to rest, right? Um, so he's up there, just kind of trying to figure things out. He's going to be sent up there. It's going to take him a few days to get up there. Well, I mean, I guess if he goes by pony, and just stays to the main roads, he can probably get there in about 3 days. So it's a bit of a trek. For him, but the West Farthing sheriffs and bounders have kind of called up some East Farthing bounders to deal with something, and since Rudy is kind of on break right now, he doesn't have anything immediately pressing, so that's kind of what he is dealing with. So yeah, he's asked to resolve this dispute between a hobbit, Andy Roper. So yeah, so after relaxing for a bit in there, so he decides to set out. After relaxing at the Golden Perch for a few hours, he decides to set out a little bit after noon, in the spring. So he sets out a little bit after noon, probably around two or so, and begins his trek on his Hobbit pony of Tony. Tony is his pony. Kind of ruddy brown, a ruddy brownish pony with a kind of blackish mane that's kind of tied off in braids. So instead of using the Strider mode journeys, since we're just trekking across the Shire, we will go ahead and just use the journeys for the Shire. So starting off on his journey from Stock, he just will kind of come up here, and we'll probably be able to get to Frogmorton by the end of the. We'll probably be able to get to Whitfurrows by the end of the. She's probably going to take the Stock Road, which will probably end up camping on the side. Yeah, so he's going to go from Stock, take the Stock Road, and then once he gets up there, we'll pull up to Bywater, and then from there, Bywater, take the Bywater Road up to Little Delvine. He enjoys kind of taking the less well-trodden path, so he's probably going to be able to travel for a little bit, just get down into the woods right before. So I will. So he sets out on this nice spring afternoon, 2 p.m. Says goodbye to the lads and lasses at the bar, at the tavern, and he carries on through the Marish, through the Bamfurlong, down the Stock Road, past his stepfather's estate and carpenter shop, until it's getting relatively later in the evening as dusk quickly approaches. And while kind of setting up camp just near the edges of the woody end, right as the road enters into the forest, he has a relatively quiet night um, as the fireflies kind of begin coming out, and you can kind of see a little bit of the lights off from Woodhall a little bit farther in the distance, but he doesn't, he just kind of rests his head on the kind of soft dirt ground just off of the road, but has a relatively quiet night otherwise. Nothing really too exciting here in the Yale and the Woody End. And until the next morning, he kind of awakes, gathers up his food and his messenger pack on his pony Tony, and carries on through the Woody End. And throughout the morning, it takes him probably a good, you know, few hours up until noon to kind of trek through the forest. He sees this old kind of cart just kind of pulled off of the road a few yards ahead of him. And there are this cart is kind of pulled by two kind of grayish brown, grayish ponies, and it's kind of loaded up with these large barrels. With he recognizes the logo of the Golden Perch, and he kind of slowly kind of trots his pony up ahead. And while he's there, he sees these kind of two drunken dwarves kind of like laying down in the grass there as they just kind of like look up. And one of them is kind of hiccuping slowly as he's got this mug of ale kind of lying in the grass beside him. And they kind of like look up and they kind of, "Ale, traveler, what can I do for a good hobbit lad like yourself? We're two miners from the Blue Mountains. Found the best brew in the entire Shire. We did." And he kind of like the yellow one kind of just like kind of is rocking back and forth as he kind of tries to like get up slowly. And Rudy kind of like looks at us. "Oi, that you did there. Although the Golden Perch is the finest in all the entire Shire, but perhaps you sampled a bit too much to head down back to your mountain halls there in the west." And one of the roses, "Oi, that we did, I suppose. But, it's a fine enough day to rest on, you know, rest on this and too exciting gonna happen in the woody end, I suppose. And Rudigar kind of nods as, oh, I suppose that's you right. Well, best of luck to you there, says Master Dwarves. May I get your name, perhaps? And the two dwarves kind of look and says, well, uh, my name is uh, uh, Poorly. Poorly of the Blue Mountains, and this is my brother Dorley. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you there, Master Poorly and Master Dorley. And the two dwarves kind of like, the one Poorly kind of stands up and shakes his mug of ale there and kind of says, "Um, pleasure to meet you too there, Master Hobbit. And my name is Rudigar Took. I'm just on important business for the Sheriff of the East Farthing." He says, well, in that case, we won't keep you there then. We're just going to rest down here. And Joy is already back down on the ground, just kind of slowly falling into a large nap. And so carrying on, after getting into the Green Hill country, nearing Tuckbarrow, um, Rudiger is making relatively good pace, and so he decides he's probably going to be able to get to Bywater um, by the end of the day. As evening approaches, kind of pushes himself a little bit harder. And so, as um, as Rudiger is kind of going on along the stock road, he kind of passes by a small little kind of farm there, which is kind of surrounded by these heavy gates. And before long, he begins hearing these loud barks and howls from dogs. And he kind of turns around and he sees three large wolfhounds with brown fur and floppy ears and snarling teeth, kind of bounding out, appearing to be unleashed. And he kind of like looks by and he kind of um, t- kind of giddies up Tony a little bit and to try to outrun them. And so this is going to be an athletics test to see if I can outrun the dogs. So right now I have athletics of 0, but I'm going to spend a hope to use my Strider distinctive feature, since I'm playing solo, to add 2 dice. All right, that is a failure. So what this is, a local farmer's guard dogs run off the property and sets out to chase the hobbit traveler, believing them to be interlopers. If the roll has failed, they are unable to calm the dog and must spend the rest of the afternoon stuck uncomfortably in a tree to avoid its bites. I gained 2 additional fatigue points from the hours of being trapped. So he wasn't able to outrun the dogs, but he was able to kind of find a kind of tall pine and be able to um, get off and be able to kind of scramble up then. And eventually the dogs go off, which means he's a little bit delayed. So he's going to take 4, 5, 6 points of fatigue. And eventually the farmer kind of like gathers up and kind of like brings the dogs back, and he kind of Rudy kind of slowly comes back down and gets back onto his pony and carries on. So he's not quite able to get to Bywater because of that slight delay. He kind of gets by dawn. He kind of makes it just to this little kind of hamlet. So he's going to have to try to this small little kind of farmer's cottage, and he's going to have to see if he can make good by requesting some in. So he kind of sets his pony off of the road, ties him off to the fence, and kind of approaches with his messenger bag and his kind of wide brimmed straw hat with the bounder's feather sticking out. And he comes up and he knocks on the door, and he kind of hears a little bit of shuffling into the brickstone house. And says, "Oh, 1 minute, 1 minute, just a minute up, wait a minute up. I'll be right with you there, sir." And eventually, the still kind of old, wrinkly, worn face of this hobbit farmer kind of like comes out, and he's wearing overalls, wearing dungarees, and his wife is kind of behind him, uh, wiping off her hands. Looks like she was just about to prepare dinner. He says, "Oh, you're a bounder, though, I see. And what would be your name, Master Hobbit?" So this is going to be a council uh, setting the. Um, his request is really just to be like, can he stay in the farmhouse tonight, or in the barn tonight? So it's not really that outrageous. So I'm just going to say the goal is 3. Yeah, the goal is 3, which would make uh, yeah, the so he's asking a farmer for a place to stay. Uh, so it's going to be a reasonable request. So just we'll need 3 successes. May I stay in the barn for the night? There we go. So it's going to be a reasonable. He's got courtesy 2 with a target number of 11, but he really needs a place to stay. So he'll introduce himself, and he's honorable, so he's going to spend that. You know, he's very clearly a kind of respectable looking hobbit lad, and he kind of bows deeply and says, "Well, the name is Rudigar Took. I'm a bounder from the East Farthing up on important business to the West Farthing, Thighfield, in fact. And it's getting late. I was not able to make it to the inn at Bywater in time. Now, I was just wondering if I would be able to rest for the night. It's been an awful road these past few, this past last night, and the journey all the way up here along the Stock Road." All right, so that looks like an extraordinary success. So that's an introduction, extraordinary success. Looking back at our council rules, if the skill roll is a success, the time limit is equal to 4 plus 1. So the time limit is 4, 5, 6. So he made quite the good impression. Um, and the hobbit there is gonna kind of nod, and let's get a name for this hobbit since we are speaking to him. So let's go yeah, cottons are kind of around these parts. So yeah, this is going to be a cotton. It is going to be Tolman and May Cotton. Farmers south of Bywater. And May is kind of going to look to Tolman and says, don't you see that the lad is worn and tired out? Just let him stay in the barn there, Tolman." And Tolman's kind of, "Quiet down. Carry on with the dinner. I'll take care of this, sir." And May will just kind of frown and says, "Very well then." Yeah. So I will go ahead and make a kind of persuasion test, and in the effort to try to get this done as quickly as possible, I will spend a point of hope to add 1 die. Got to pass a target number 13. 5. That's only a 10, so that is actually a failure. So kind of like at this point, kind of, uh, I think Rudy kind of begins. This is well, she can stay if she wants, and he kind of just gets off on a bad foot, and he kind of is bumbling his word as he's kind of like tired and kind of fatigued right now. He says, and Tolman just kind of says, come on there, laddie, spit it out." So he kind of uh, changes his approach a bit, and goes in for a in Horton to kind of try to in Horton his in Horton him a little bit more, and just kind of and I'm going to invoke Stride in there because this is technically during a journey. Just kind of like speak to his better nature, and it is the Bounders are always looking after you there, Mr. Cotton, and the Bounders are always looking after you, Mr. Cotton, and it'd be a right precious moment if you could just let me stay in there for a moment. I'm not going to spend hope, but I am going to spend a fellowship score since I have 5. All right, so that is only 1 success. So I still need to get 2 more, and I think he's beginning to be lightened up to the whole situation, and it's kind of beginning to ask a little bit of questions about the whole scenario. Which is kind of making Rudigar feel a little bit like apprehensive. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to tell you a whole much, so he's going to use riddle uh, on this approach now, and he'll spend a point of hope just to add a single die. He says, "Well, it's really Bounder business, but what I can tell you is there's a bit of a dispute up in Thorfield, Master Cotton." So that is 6, 7, 8. All right, so that is a great success. So that is 2 more successes. So I think with that, um, Rudy has made pretty good impression, and he hasn't done overly. If I would have gotten any over, I might do like an extraordinary success or something like that. But Tolman Carter kind of like nods and says, "Well, see, I'll tell you what, there, lad. You can stay in my barn there. May will prepare some more food. We'll bring out food for you and have breakfast ready for you on in the morning. How about that there, laddie?" And Rudiger kind of bows and says, "Well, thank you there very much kindly there, sir." Um, and so Rudiger returns uh, to the fence to fetch Tony, and Tolman follows him, and together the 2 hobbits wrap their way around the house, kind of this winding path, this large winding path, and this it kind of reveals this a kind of orchard in the growing sun, kind of reflected from the growing sunset as the moonrise comes up over the hills, and this large kind of 2-story barn, and Tolman kind of uh, takes the doors and kind of heaves them open on these big sliding doors, and together Rudy leads Tony in to a place and to a feeder trough, and ties him off and takes off his saddle, and lets Tony kind of rest you as well. And Tolman kind of Rudy finds a nice kind of hay bed there and says, "Well, once dinner's ready, I'll make sure to bring out some for you. And like I said, you can have breakfast in the morning." And Rudy kind of nods and says, "I greatly appreciate that." and I will allow him to reduce just fatigue by 1 point here. So yeah, the night passes pretty quietly, uneventfully. Dinner's brought in, dinner's brought out, cleared the plates, and he kind of rests very fitfully, rests very nicely in the whole situation. And then in the morning, breakfast, as promised, is brought in. And so in the morning, he continues on. It's only about an hour or so to Bywater, and he goes up through Bywater, through Hobbiton, and along the water, up through the Bywater Road. And I'm going to roll another one last random event. He'll be able to get to Little Delving by the end of the night. Ooh, that's a delay. So, as he's going up along. Oh, how much fatigue is that? All right, so that's 3 fatigue. So as he's going on, a bit of a spring storm kind of springs up out of the blue, kind of coming up northwest over the hills of the Shire, forcing Rudy to make a explore test to see if he can go by. And I will invoke Strider again, just I do want to get caught unawares. All right, so that's a great success. So he takes the 3 fatigue, but nothing extra. And if he would have failed, so he's able to find a place to kind of rest for the night, and rest for the afternoon, but the rain just doesn't let up, so he just kind of stays there for the rest of the evening. He's not able to recover any fatigue, and he's about halfway up to Little Delving. It's taking him a little bit longer than he would have expected, but by midnight, the kind of storm kind of passes on, and he's able to continue on for the rest of the trek. So that was, looking back at my map, that was 1, 2, 3. So it's about 4 days. All right. So he's finally able to get to Gamwich on the 4th day. So right off the bat, he's interested in kind of figuring out what's all going on here. But as he enters Gamwich, these small little this small, or not Gamwich rather, but Thighfield. As he enters Thighfield, just a little bit ways north of little delving. This is small little northern corner, um, small little wooden houses and farms where local tends the field of swaying flax and that dance in the summer breeze. Set between the two communities is the Great Rope Rock, a long and narrow stone building, likely the only one of its size and type in the Shire, where strands of fiber are spun and woven together to make the finest rope in the region. Here works Andwise Andy Roper, the most skilled rope maker in the Shire, at the heir of the long tradition, going back at least 3 generations. While hobbits are certainly willing to labor at many tasks, some find rope making to be akin to dwarf work. In recent years, many families from both villages have considered migrating to less remote spots in the West Farthing. Among them is Andy's brother, Hamfast, who has taken on gardening as his trade and has moved to Hobbiton. Um, so yeah, he comes in kind of late into the afternoon, probably around 5 or so, kind of gearing up into the evening hours. And he comes up to a bit of a shocking surprise. Uh, this isn't just some like rumor, like this is kind of boiled over into a full-fledged mob as he sees a group of angry hobbits waving clubs and pitchforks and torches, and they all kind of are set up as if they're ready to set a farmhouse ablaze at any moment. And uh, they're kind of led by this kind of younger-ish hobbit, kind of rallying them around the old rope factory. And so uh, Rudy kind of approaches in and kind of holds up his arm and says, "Oi there, then! What's all going on then?" And kind of, "Oh, so the sheriff's finally decided to send something to deal with these hooligans in the rope factory at last. My name's Andy Roper. And who are you? Oh, I've got my due justice. I got my due justice, I do." He says, "Oh, I'm Rudigar Took. And what's all going on?" "Three dwarves have barricaded them up at my factory, they have." "Well, three of these dwarven scoundrels here have barricaded them up in this farmhouse. Right after a few days or so, my rope was stolen from the factory, and these strangers here, no one else in their right mind in Gamwich or Thighfield would hope to do this. Now, since the sheriff didn't send any business intelligence now, we're gonna see to it that our folk are gonna get their just desserts, understand?" And to to think even we offered them to give a tour of the factory, and now their leader, Ergy, or so he calls himself, is denying all claims of theft and charge. Well, perhaps I can speak to him, and we can all sort this out without any violence or resorting to farmhouses being burnt to timbers and ash. You know, they even managed to wound one of my poor ponies. And of course, the owner, the mistress who owns this here farmhouse, yeah, she was able to escape. We're doing right by here to get these scoundrels out of town. And you're going to side with them, you are. Is that what is that? Well, no, I'll not side with them at all. I didn't say I was going to side with them at all there, Mr. Roper. But we do lot to figure out this sort of mess. Now, I'm going to try to bargain a truce and see what I can come. I just need them to come out of the rope factory, come out of the farmhouse there, and then we can talk. So how about the mob just settle down? I can try to get them out. I'm pretty good with words there, Mr. Roper. All right, so we'll play this as a council again. So I think it's going to be a bold request. Mr. Ergy Broadbeam. All right, so it's going to be a bold request. I do think I need to make a test at least to prevent. Yeah, I do think I need to make a persuade test to calm them down. So I'm going to spend a point of hope because I want to make sure. 5, 13, 14, 15. All right, so that is a basic success. So I think, Rudy is able to calm down the hobbits and be like, let's kind of calm this down, figure out what's going on. Um, and yeah, so he's gonna approach. Yeah, so I don't think I need to spend hope on this. Hopefully, I don't mess up. 5, 6, 11. All right, so that is just a basic success. So, all right, so that will only be a time limit of 4. So I have much less time to try to do this. Oh, one thing I forgot to do. I forgot to roll to reduce fatigue. So I reduce 1 fatigue from the journey because of Tony. So I'm at 7. And I have travel 2, that's favored. And I have my messenger bag that is light to carry, can carry a lot of his stuff without becoming overburdened. And you know what? I'm going to spend hope to invoke Strider. Oh boy, that is a success with 3 Tengwas. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Reduced by 4 fatigue. So his fatigue goes down to 3. All right, then. All right, so I'm going to courtesy this. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so that's already a failure. So he just kind of, so he succeeded his council introduction, but he failed. Yeah, so he's kind of going over in his Rudigar's. I think at that point, the dwarves just kind of peek out and says, "I ain't need to talk to you there, Bounder. Those hobbits accused us of theft when we did not do that." And he says, at this point, Rudy is going to kind of just, "I understand they may have accused you of theft, but it is our honourable customs in the Shire to resolve all things peacefully. Now, whether or not you stole from the rope factory, I do have witnesses that have now claimed that you are have forcibly taken up in this farmhouse. Now that is at the very least a trespassing violation for the good old Berba, the farm lass who owns the farmhouse. Would you not at least say that? You may not be guilty of the theft, but at the very least, we need to resolve this situation now. We can resolve this peacefully and perhaps move on, figure out the exact cause of this. I'm going to spend a hope with honorable. That's a 12. All right, that is a success, an extraordinary success at that. So that's 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 successes. I need 3 more. And I'm running out of hope. And they kind of like, says, well, perhaps you're not all that bad then, Master Rudigar. Says, oh, good. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do song and kind of sing a song to kind of encourage them that, feuds should be solved without violence, to try to resolve things peacefully and the like. All right, so that's a 7, 8. All right, that is a great success. All right, and I made 1 failed roll, 2 successful rolls. So I have 1 more left. So if I can't make this, and now I think I'm just gonna kind of go, no, I'm not gonna outright lie, but Rudigar is kind of gonna go for an approach of, now I understand that you don't believe you did anything wrong. And no, I don't believe you did anything wrong either, at least, regarding the ropes. And if you come out there now, I can try as much as I can to get you out there without any extended punishment. And he doesn't necessarily know if he can fully do this, so this is more of a riddle. All right, that is an extraordinary success. So 7 total. So it's just barely. So the dwarves, led by Urgi, agree to come out. The dwarves, led by Urgi, agree to come out of the farmhouse there. And let me just kind of read ahead on this little tab. All right. And he says, and he kind of says, now, fair enough there. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Urgi. Now, I'm going to make sure none of you will be untoward, but you're just going to have to stay under watch and key for now. Now, they're not going to do anything without the proper sheriff for the West Farthing coming up here to serve as judge, or we'll take you down there until we can resolve this dispute. Understood? And the dwarves kind of nods. Now, I'm going to hold you to your word there, Mr. Rudy, said Urgi, kind of like scowling at him, and the two other dwarves kind of resting their hands. Says, I'm just going to do a little bit of questioning and all. Yeah, so I'm going to use Riddle to question some of the locals. So it says I can question the locals. Whew, that is a great success. Just barely a great success. So as he learns that he learns that they're not entirely sure, if the dwarves there, they never were really seen. They were there, but they didn't find the. He learns that they didn't find the missing rope. That the rope was missing until at least a few hours after the dwarves had already gone down to the small local pub. But he does learn with that Burbo's husband never returned from a journey with dwarves down in the far downs. And many have always heard that, she always rambles on and on about, the dwarven scoundrels, murdering people, murdering dwarven scoundrels always causing mischief and trouble in their lands. And that kind of prompts Rudy to kind of do some investigations of his own. So what he's going to do is make an investigation. Would be probably Ooh, I'm not really good at scan at all. Interesting. Well, I am gonna do insight. Well, yeah, let's do insight. And I got Max, so he's gonna speak kind of like while listening to that, he's gonna speak to these hobbits and kind of learn a little bit, kind of like question uh Berber and her son Bobbin. So he's kind of asking them. So that is a success. That's a 19. Um, he learns that the dwarves. Uh, he learns kind of through speaking that apparently Bobbin hasn't been seen, wasn't seen for basically the entire day that the ropes were apparently stolen. Um, so I'm going to, I think, because this is explore, I'm going to argue that this is an explore test rather than a scan because I'm exploring the area around her farmhouse. Uh, I'm going to spend a point of hope. I spent a lot of hope on this adventure. So that is a 5. That's a great success. So what he finds, what Rudigar finds, is that he finds small young hobbit tracks leading into the cellar of the farmhouse. And so he's going to try to open the farmhouse cellar. And that is a success. So he kind of goes down and he's able to find a neat pack of fine rope in the thigh from the Thigh Field Rope Factory. Is still bundled and wrapped with Andy Roper's uh, business tag on it. And so from there, he's able to kind of resolve that the theft actually happened, that Bobbin and Berba together pinned the theft on the dwarves in an attempt to kind of scapegoat them. And that much kind of comes out after several days of investigation. A few other bounders show up. Um, the bounders kind of like take care of everything. Um, since there wasn't much to do, everyone is kind of resolved, and they're just Andy is kind of makes up to the dwarves and kind of is able to resolve everything easily that way. So yeah, that is the end of the adventure. And looking at this, um, I will do a fellowship phase next time because we're already at 1 hour of on. So I think what looking at the experience milestone table, um, I accepted. I didn't accept a mission from a patron, but I did get a patron from the sheriff of the East Farthing. So I will take 1 adventure point, and then I will take an adventure point and a skill point for completing the mission. Completing a meaningful journey. Um, yeah, I'd say that. So I will take an adventure point for completing the mission, accepting the mission. Completing the patron's mission, I will take an adventure point and a skill point. Completing a meaningful journey. I would say it was a meaningful journey up from there. So I'll take 3. Face a noteworthy. I didn't really face any noteworthy encounters. Reveal a significant encounter. Overcome a tricky ever. Participate in a council. I did participate in 2 councils, so I will give myself 3, 4, 5. 5 skill points. Survive a dangerous combat. Face a revelation. All right. So yeah. So I didn't really. So that's where I'm at. I'm at. Oh, I messed up. This should be 5. Just here. Skill points is here, and then adventure points. All right, yeah, five adventure points. Is that right? Yes. 1 adventure point for accepting the mission. 1 adventure point for completing the mission. 1 skill point for completing the mission. 2 more skill points for completing the journey. So that's 3 skill points. And then I participated in 2 councils, so that's 5. Yeah, so 5. Yeah. And that was the first adventure in my Hobbit Tales adventure. So long, everyone. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Um, hit the bell icon for future updates and live streams. I will be trying to do this once a week, maybe twice a week, depending on how things are going. So, once again, thank you, everyone. I've been Fantasy and Roleplay. I hope you enjoyed the little Hobbit Tale adventure. Bye.